Well, how did you get on? I hope it was fun, and I hope it was a challenge. I'm going to show you what I created, and then we'll get into the techniques and methods I've used and break it all down. So this is my animation. So I chose to use multiple shots. You can see we're cutting a sequence together. The look and feel is quite glossy. We're using lots of close-up shots and then pulling back to have this final reveal. So here's my plan. It was very simple. I just sketched out a few ideas and then I wrote down a few ideas as well. Extreme close-up on the stars, the word sports forming, and then we'd pull back to the final resolve of the logo. Here we are in C4D and we've got the logo here, and I've grouped everything and organized them into nulls so we can group and divide different sections, and everything is also organized into layers as well. This just keeps it easy to read and it's just a good way of working. The modeling is relatively simple. If we just open up the word all, for example, and I'll press S on the keyboard just to zoom in on that, and all we're doing really is, and on most of these things, is just using the extrude object, setting some movement, and setting a cap, and then just playing around with the details until we're happy with them. So I've also gone in and added additional details such as this edge. I've also given my note as to what kind of color it will be later on. And then we've got some other sections here. These sweeps are just using scaled up versions of the main word. And we're just going in, if you go into the object tab here, you can see I've just changed the start and end growth, and these will actually be animated later on. So if we just zoom out here and look at the stars, we've got stars here at the top. We've got some more stars at the bottom as well. The top, they're both very similar. Let's just look at the top stars. So if we look at those here, these are quite fun to do because you can see this quite unique profile they have, shape to them. You see we've got this going up and down at different points. And this was achieved if we go into the settings here. On the sweep, I've got this zigzag pattern in the details. And the extrude objects are using a special cap, just a fillet type of half circle, and that's creating this effect here. So it's just adding detail. Let's just take one of these and I'll show you what we've done to it. So I'm going to copy and paste it into a new document. You can see the axis for this is all the way over there. We want it to be in the middle of the points. So we will just press Shift C and this brings up the commander. I'm going to start typing in axis center and just execute. And then that's over there now. Let's just look at the object properties. If I copy that, I want to make a note of that X because when I bring it into here, and I can see that that's all the way over there as well, I'm going to zero out the coordinate of this and then change that to be that value, and then we're back to where we are. It seems a bit complicated, and it just goes to show that it's a good idea to actually set the axis in the center beforehand before you start adding other objects. So that's a way of getting around the problem. As I said before, in the object tab, if we just bring up here, it's all in the details of this scale, just by creating a zigzag pattern, and you can just command click on the line to create a point and then just move it around. So I'm going to undo that. And then what I did was, if I delete this, what it is, it's just a duplicate of the main spline. So I'll delete it for now. And I'll command click and drag to create a copy. You can see that's made a copy there. Switch over to point mode, command A, select all the points and make sure I have my scale tool selected. And then if I just come around here and just grab this handle and press shift, I just want to scale this up just a little bit, 110% will do. So let's just check the coordinates of that. Okay, everything seems to be matching up with that, so that's fine. So now what we can do to create the additional splines, I use the outline tool. So with the point selected, I'm going to right click in the viewport. And if I come down to here, you can see the word create outline, and this function will do just that. So if I choose that, I can choose to create a new object, but I don't want to do that. I can then set a distance. So let's say maybe 2 centimeters and apply. And now that's created a outline of the original selected spline. So I'm going to drop that tool and I'm going to select a point on the outer spline here. So what I want to do is select all the points just on this outer spline. So how would I do that? I can select only the points that are connected. So the shortcut is UW. You can also come over to the select menu and choose select connected. So now what we can do with this is give them some rounding. And we do that if we just right click in the viewport once again. And above that create outline was the chamfer tool. I'm going to select the chamfer tool and then choose a radius of say 0.5, hit return to apply. And it could probably even go a bit greater than that, but let's just leave it at that for now. And if we click off and then we'll add this back into the hierarchy, and you can see now that we've got that effect that I created before of the hard-edged spline and the outer spline, and it's all in one sweep object. We're getting that zigzag effect created across those two splines. So that was how I did the stars. And then of course I would just move them back so that they were set back a bit. So I just zeroed out the Z position. That looks a bit better to me. And then let's just go back into the main model and we'll just come down here. So that was our stars. Oh, look at the word sport. That's quite interesting. So we'll just bring this down so we've got ourselves a bit of room here, and I'm going to twirl these up. And now let's look at sports. So as before, I knew that I wanted these to be split into rows because I wanted to animate the words kind of forming. Here's the different rows, all different splines. And then, yeah, that was just simple extrudes. It gets a bit more interesting once you start animating. So fillet cap, very simple. All stuff that we've covered in the course. Now this thing behind, why is it white? Well, it's because we've got this single cube, if I uncheck the cloner, is in a cloner. You can use MoGraph for modeling as well. And I just wanted to have some kind of backing behind the word sport. So that's how I did that. Now the icons, if we go into the bottom geo, they are again splines that have just been extruded. See, it's all very similar methods. And then now we move down and we've got these other splines that represent the bottom stars as well. So if we take a look at the logo as a whole once again, see, as I mentioned before, it's all split up into different sections. It's very easy to navigate through the model. And this will become very important when we come to animate because we can find things quickly. So the general note for this is this could have been fairly plain, but I chose to come in and add details with the fillet caps. And then I also added additional details by scaling up the splines, outlining them, and then chamfering edges just to give more detail and more interest. And it's these little things that you can add that will set it apart from other models. And then just using different cap types as well, so they're not all the same. That just adds interest, adds value. And so this was a look at the planning of the animation and modeling of the logo. Next we'll look at how I animated the logo using MoGraph and set up the camera animations.